Today is July 18th, 2022. So quiet in here this morning. Watching the Today Show, the dog and a cat watching it just about to storm. And I, just in case you're wondering, which you might not be, I'm a blogger by trade. I write stories. Where in the frick is the coffee? And, oh, there's looking for my coffee. And so I write. Well, for how many years? 6 years. On July 18th, I've written the same story. It's true, I have. And last night when I went to bed, I was like, what am I going to write this year? This is kind of a big day for me, always. Okay, I'd just like it to be known I'm not having a painkiller for breakfast. I deserve one. Anyway, for 6 years, I have written this stuff is really good if you need to get ketchup out of your carpet. FYI. I've written the same story. And today I was like, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to do a video, because one thing I've done, not much lately, though I did do something last week, is like talking to crowds and speaking. Not that I'm like an amazing speaker, but there is something that is more personal when you are talking, even if it's only me talking. Last night I was doing a subscriber video and I told my son to turn the television down because I said my followers can't hear. He was like, Mom, they something like they can't, I can't remember. They can't hear they're not trying to hear the TV or something. Blah, blah, blah. I haven't had any coffee yet. And yes, I like instant coffee. I know it's a real problem for the people out there, but instant coffee is my friend. And Cafe Bustelo does not pay me nothing to say that. So good. But anyway, telling a story is different than writing a story. And I almost like it better. So it's not as well executed, at least when it's me, because there's dogs and cats and ketchup squirting and pancake microwaving and me making a list of all the shit I need to be doing today. And I hadn't done it, but I figured it's early. I've got time. Honor, quiet. What is the name of your weight loss shop? Well, tune in tonight because Angela Thatcher is going to be on my blog, subscriber video, 8:30, 9 p.m., talking about all this kind of stuff. Anyway, y'all are distracted. So, for 6 years, I've written the same story on July 18th. And I bet there are very few of you who know what that is, because you read a story and you move on. But for me, it's been the biggest story I've ever told, and the story that arguably has affected my life more than any other one. Amos being probably second. The story about my brother. I had a big brother. I'm a default only child, as I say, because I wasn't always an only child, but I have been now for 32 years. For 32 years, I have woken up on July 18th and thought about July 18th of 1990. And that is the day that my brother fell off this earth. And I've never told this story out loud, so it's important to me to tell it right. Which is why I have on an Amos mosquito visor, no bra, and a cup of instant coffee. That's too hot to drink. trying to get off sugar. And I really like sugar. Yeah, no, it's not about being sorry or hugs. You know, it's interesting. This much down the road, this is actually probably the first year that I could ever have talked about Adam out loud on a big video. Now, I will say it's easier to talk on a video than it is like to someone like my parents. Isn't that funny? I don't know why. Maybe that's just me. I feel like other people like in my house are like, oh my gosh, don't put me on video. I'm like, I can say anything on a video. It feels so anonymous. It really does. But this has probably been the easiest year. And I will say in the last 7 years, it's been easier. Missing Adam has been easier for a couple reasons. But anyway, I digress. When I was 15 years old and Adam was 19, July 18th was a hot summer morning. I woke up right in this condominium where I'm sitting today. And I talked to my mother the night before, my brother. Y'all don't boss me. I don't want stevia. My brother had 6 brain tumors and was in the hospital in Rocky Mount. And I had come down to the beach to stay with my grandparents. Oh, and I know you do. And my best friend, her name was Missy Armstrong. She was at the beach too. Her family had rented a condominium right next door at Pine Knoll Towns. And I talked to my mom the night before and I said, what should I do? Should I come home? Missy's dad is going back to Rocky Mount for work. So I could come home with him. Or I could stay here. And she said, well, Adam's okay, but I miss you. And I said, well, it's fine. I'll ride home with Mr. Armstrong in the morning. So I got in the car. We got in the car about probably 8:30, maybe 8:15. Yeah. Let me wipe this drippy coffee off my cup with a dirty sock. And we got in the car. I slept all the way to Rocky Mount. He had a Prelude. Dropped me off at the front of the hospital. And I went inside. And when I got up to I can't remember what floor it was. The 3rd floor? Got up to the 3rd floor. Adam was dying. And there weren't cell phones back then. There was no way to call or, tell anybody anything or hurry or whatever. And so I think our minister was up there. And I was real annoyed to see him. I can just tell you that. I mean, some reason when bad things happen, I get super angry. It's true. It's so weird. Anyway, and I just remember wanting to throttle him. And he was in the hall, and my parents were in the room. And my parents left the room for me to say goodbye. And I don't remember what they said or how we knew. I really don't remember anything. But I remember telling him goodbye, but I don't remember what I said. Oh, never thought about that. I wonder what I said. See, I was just fine this morning. And let's just take a pause. It's harder to talk about these things than or obviously that I remembered. Well, I'll get back to I didn't talk about this or write about this or think about this for 25 years because it was just too hard. And I will tell you, when I started writing and thinking and talking and processing this grief, my life has become so much more joyful. So I really, I would encourage anybody, maybe not on a Monday morning, you've got to tackle these hard things in life. You just have to, because your life will be so much better if you do. If you shove it away and push it down and just pretend everything's fine, you can get through it, but it's going to be, it's at some point, it's going to bite you in the ass. I'm just going to tell you that. But we need a grieving heart. And I think, Nancy, we want to make sure that we not just tell people we're sorry. I'm not calling you out, but that we encourage people to share and to weep and to cry and to process the feelings, because the feelings are hard to process. It's a hell of a lot easier just to la 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 la, pretend everything's fine. Oh, I'm sorry, Tammy. You know, people have hard things in life, and you might look at me and think, well, she's got it pretty good. She's sitting down at the beach condo that she grew up in. Her parents gave her, and she's got 4 kids and a nice husband, and has made a pretty good, career out of being a blogger and sitting in her pajamas. But I feel like my contact's falling out. I don't have one in. But everybody has hard things, and some a lot harder than other people. So anyway, Adam, I tell him goodbye, I guess, and all I could think about, so if you're just tuning in, this is my big brother. On July 18th, 1990, I always say he fell off this earth. And I'm 47, so that was 32 years ago. 32 years ago. So I was 15 when he died. He's been gone. I only knew him. I've been gone 2 times longer than I knew him. Isn't it interesting how somebody just, your life, my mom died last Monday and I don't know what to do. Feel all the feelings. Feel all the feelings. The sadness is always there. Carolyn, I'm telling you, the sadness for Adam is not in the same way since I've been processing and talking about it. And I don't even think it's the talking about it. I think it's just the processing it. No, I don't even have contacts in. That's why, how can my contact be messing up? And so a lot of times when I talk to people, they get teary and they're like, I don't know what's wrong with me. And I'm like, well, you probably have all these feelings. I'm not a psychologist. I just play one on TV, as my cousin Patty says. But you can't ignore them forever. They will get you, They will get you. So anyway, I left the hospital on that July morning, July 18th, 1990, and I ran down, it must have been 3 flights of steps, and I just ran. And, now as a parent, 4 children, and I have a 16-year-old and an almost 15-year-old, and I think about that a lot with my own kids. Like, how would they handle this, like losing a sibling? And, anyway. Yes, Kathy Berry was there. She knows. Oh, thank you, Kathy. Awfully good to my mom. I ran, and it was like, well, if I can just run, I'll run away from it. Well, there's no running from death or pain or hurt, There's no running. But you know where I went? I went to Pizza Inn. I'm probably the only person who's lost her big brother and run to Pizza Inn. But my cousin Megan was working there that summer, and I've never really talked to her about it, but she was working there that summer probably to be closer to my brother. She was in college, or no, she was in high school. She was in high school, not college yet. And she was working at Pizza Inn, and so I just ran in there, and I was standing at the counter, and this woman, African American, kindest face. I thought she was old at the time. She was probably, my age now, in her 40s. And just sobbing at the hostess post. And she said, I said, I'm looking for my cousin Megan. And she said, okay, I'll get her. And then she said, honey, did somebody hurt your feelings? And I remember in that like moment of almost the snap of like, yeah, they really did. They really hurt my feelings. My brother is gone. I have no brother. For 15 years, I've had this amazing big brother. And now I have no brother. He's gone. So my brother Adam had cancer. He had a tumor about the size of a softball in his lung between his freshman and sophomore year of college. This is 1989. And thought he had the flu, maybe he had mono, and my mother made him go home and go to the doctor. He was working at Portside Marina down in Morehead City. And we went to see Dr. Smith, Dr. Tim Smith, a good family friend, and his blood counts were like, if they're supposed to be 2, they were 20,000. And my parents took him right to Duke. And they said, you have this tumor. It's the size of your softball. It's in your left lung. And he was there about 3 weeks. They were like, it's not malignant. It's just something you're going to have to deal with. And they took it out. So they took out half of his left lung. And they said, you can't ever smoke, but you're going to go on and live your life and be great. This is 1989. So we picked him up from the hospital that day. And you know what the date was that we picked him up from the hospital that summer? July 18th. And if you're not a Christian or you don't have faith, to me, the dates are such a God wink, because it's like on that day, we were full of hope and joy and life, and he's better and he's going home. And we picked him up. And I remember my dad said, should we go to Rocky Mount or should we go to the beach? And we were like, let's go to the beach. Let's go to the beach. So we leave, we go to the beach. And you know what we did? I think we did that day. Sometimes your mind plays tricks on you, but we went on the boat. We got in our 1972 Mako and we went out to Cape Lookout, just the 4 of us. We never went anywhere, just the 4 of us. In the summer, my grandparents lived here. They always lived on the top floor. And my cousins, my Uncle Jim, my Aunt Michelle, my 3 cousins lived 2 miles down the beach. There were 5 of them. We shared this boat with them. So whenever we went on the boat, there were 11 people, 2 families and 2 grandparents. I mean, that's my whole childhood. So on this day, we went on the boat and just had this magical day at Cape Lookout, which is one of my favorite places. And that boat is the boat that I watch my sons take out in the summer now, pull out from our dock in Edenton, and I see their big smiles and their beautiful blonde hair and blue eyes, and I see my brother, and everything that I thought he was and amazing in my children. But anyway, he had this lung tumor and everything was fine. He went on to be a marshal. Oh, there's my friend Mary Scott. And Mary Scott is one of my best friends, and I probably haven't told her this story. So there is something about having a camera between you. But I do think it's super important to encourage people to tell these stories, because they need to be told so that they don't hold people hostage, because they can really get your heart. Oh, Amy lost their daughter July 11th. My dad always says it took 3 years to not just have it be a crushing weight first thing when you woke up in the morning. So my brother was a marshal for a girl, Katie Wright, and she was a debutante. And so when you wonder, like, oh, there's my friend Meg, you wonder, like, why was Adrienne a debutante, or what did that mean? I will say my parents and my brother were part of this whole debutante thing and had the best time. I remember my mom and my brother going to Now's in Raleigh and getting him, the right clothes. And they went to all the parties, and they're like the best pictures of my brother are from that weekend, which are so nice to have now. So I think when I got asked to be a debutante, here, and this fall I'm working on a book proposal, and this is a chapter. This is a chapter in my book. And this letter came, and I didn't care about being any debutante. I can tell you that right now. I fancied myself sort of a hippie and, roller skated for my first job. And though I was an enigma hippie that drives a convertible. But anyway, what was I saying? No, I can't remember. I did that during my talk this week. I was just talking, and then I was like, what was the... When you have a speaker and then they ask what was the question, you're like, Adrienne might not be the best fit for you. What is your end story? I don't know. What is it? Do any of us know? Okay, so Adam goes back to school. Struggle with how to talk to my niece about their mom. Grayson, I think it's super important to tell them stories about their mom. I want to hear stories about Adam. Always want to hear stories. And when my friend Kim's dad died last week, we were standing in the parish hall at church, and he said, I'd love to hear any stories you have to say. And Kim is somebody that can verbalize what he wants, but we all want stories. We want the stories. And that when my brother died, having all his friends around to tell stories, there's nothing I like more on this earth than sitting on the beach with Adam's old friends and hearing stories about him. Oh, my friend Sarah Lockery. I miss her because I want stories. You were talking about a chapter in the book. Okay, so yes. So Adam was a marshal for this debutante stuff. Oh, Cindy. I'm not even paying attention. Oh, Glennis. And goes back to school. He's at University of South Carolina, sophomore, good student. And my cousin called, and this is really my cousin Jason's story, but my cousin called my parents and said something's wrong with Adam. He's sleeping a lot. He doesn't remember things. And I was off at boarding school. His sophomore year of college was my freshman year at Salem Academy. And Marilyn, you'll never be over it. I don't think. At least nobody in my family is. I think you can move forward and find joy again, but it's you'll never be over it. It's when you lose a part of your heart like that, how can you... It doesn't work the same way, I was off at boarding school, and I was due to come home that weekend, and my brother, my cousin Jason, my parents said, we're going to get him an airline ticket, put him on an airplane in Columbia, and he can fly home to Rocky Mount. And my dad was going to pick me up. He and his partner would fly. Oh, thank you, Shannon. I love seeing all these, my old childhood friends on here. And my dad's partner came to pick me up, and I said, well, where's Dad? It's like, well, he had to, do something. So that was fine. Dr. Berger picks me up, takes me to Rocky Mount. Well, my cousin Jason had taken him to the airport, and my parents called Jason. They were like, Adam didn't get off the plane. So Jason goes back out to the airport. Now, he's a sophomore in college, and he finds Adam sitting in a chair in the airport, and he's just watching the planes go by. had forgotten to get on the airplane. And so my dad flew to get him, flew him back. And I walked into the kitchen at my parents' house. We lived out at the reservoir in Nashville, North Carolina. Have you written a book? No, but that is my fall agenda, is my book proposal. And so, and my mother just crumpled, and she said, Adam's sick again. And I said, you don't know that, maybe he's this, maybe he's not sick again. And, but she did know, right? Because mothers know. If there's one thing I love to lecture doctors on, it's the fact that when a mother tells you, like when I said something's wrong with Amos, he's not right. Somebody said, well, he'll catch up. I was like, no, I knew. Or last summer, I was like, maybe this medicine is causing these cyclical vomiting syndrome that Amos has. And the doctor was like, that would be really rare. But you know what? I hear you. Let's try it, Dr. Copeland at Duke Autism. And the problem went away. Mothers have a knowledge. When you have grown someone in your own body and birthed them, there's just this love and connection to that person that I don't think could ever go away. Even if you gave them up for adoption, and raising a baby is the same, but there's something about, there's just something about when I don't know. She knew. And that night, he spent the night, stayed in my parents' bed. And I remember my dad was like, well, we'll call you Nurse Harold. And it was the last time he ever, well, no, that's not true. He had to have come. Did he? No. I think that was the last time he spent the night in our family house. And took him to Duke. And he never left Duke. Well, he left Duke to go to Boston to the hospital. But, so I'm talking about my brother. If you're tuning in, July 18th is our anniversary date. And as you know, when you love somebody, there's lots of dates. But July 18th is the day he left this earth and left us here. And his birthday is August 18th. And so that's kind of a big day too. I always think for my mother of she gave birth to her first child, my only brother. And, but July 18th is this anniversary day, and it lurks and looms. And for years, I would just walk around and be so sad on July 18th. And I'm not anymore, because it doesn't own me and hold me hostage. And I think processing those feelings and being sad and talking, and those things are really hard. Like, you might look at me and say, well, it's good that you can talk about it. Bullshit. Everybody has got to talk about it. You have to. It will destroy you. And it can destroy you. There are people that lose children and it destroys them. It does. I have a friend. And she took her own life, and I think it destroyed her. It's not you. We do have choices, and we have coping abilities, and I'm doing a disservice if I don't encourage people to grieve and mourn and get help. Do you ever talk to your parents about your brother? So Cindy, since I started writing my blog, we have talked about Adam more and more and more. But we didn't talk about him for years. We couldn't. It was too hard just to say his name. Well, I mean, I would be a great actress if I just pretended about Adam if I was ever supposed to cry. It's so hard. It's so hard. Gosh, it's hard. But it's so important. So it's like pushing through that. So anyway, he's at Duke, and Duke said he has 6 brain tumors. And, back then, 1989, I guess now if you had cancer, they would do a PET scan, they would do all these sort of scans to see. And they didn't do that back then, I don't think. And oh, Rachel, sorry to hear that, Rachel. They said there was a doctor there, Dr. Fulkerson, and he was a pulmonologist, and now he's head of Duke Health Systems, and I just think he's amazing and wonderful. And Dr. Fulkerson and I met a few years ago. I said, I really want to meet you and like hear about this. Do any of your boys have Adams? Yes, my son Russell is Adam Russell Harold Wood. So I was so excited when I had my second son. We named our first son for my husband because I was like, yay, I get my Adam Russell. So anyway, and he's so proud of that. But Dr. Fulkerson said to me, your brother is still the only person that I've ever given chemotherapy to, and I didn't know if they had cancer. And how powerful that was, and how desperate my parents were, and how desperate Duke was to find out what he had. And finally, he had been at Duke in ICU. Now, granted, he was in ICU. He would leave and come see me at boarding school and visit. I mean, but my parents moved him. How did they not know it was cancer? Well, they couldn't take any of the brain tumors out because they were too wrapped up in his brain. So Duke did not feel comfortable taking the brain tumors out. The lung tumor had been biopsied, but it only takes one cell to be malignant, right? I worked with Dr. Fulkerson at Duke for years. Wonderful man. Oh, I just couldn't speak highly enough of him. But my parents moved him to Boston, Massachusetts General Hospital, and Dr. Fulkerson encouraged them to do that. He said, you know, your dad would ask me a question, and I would go to the library to think, well, I'm going to look into this, and he'd be in there researching it right then. And he was like, your dad, you know, he was making the calls. He was doing the research. He was pushing, which is probably where I've gotten it from, that kind of instinct. But my parents moved him to Boston. Yeah, different times medically. And Mass General took out one tumor. Cindy lost my father Monday, the 4th of July, and my best friend. Oh, sorry, Cindy. Took out a tumor, and they said it is cancer. It's a very rare cancer. There are only 6 people in the world that have been known to have had it. And it's fibroblastic histiocytoma lung primary. So it had started in his lung. And at the time, that was seen as so rare. Duke kept saying, I'm not like faulting Duke, but Duke kept saying, no, these two things aren't related. And my parents were like, no way can this healthy teenager have a lung tumor and then a brain tumor and them not be related. Like, no. No. And at the time, I really think they didn't think he was going to live, but they're like, we have to know what he has. Like, we cannot lose him and not know. And it's important that we know for other people now, you know, because, you know, there's probably a reason now that we do more scans and we look for things. But I will also say, you know, the beauty in not knowing was we had this beautiful, wonderful summer. And I don't think there was anything they could have done at the time, you know, then. Oh, Anita, I'm sorry. Anita's losing her brother now. Too many lesions to count. So Anita, so Adam, after they knew what he had, they moved back to Rocky Mount. And he was at our community hospital, which is no longer there. Friends could come in and out. And I would spend every night in the hospital with him. And then in the daytime, I had this friend, Kathy Hoyle, who took her own life a few years ago, which is interesting. And I never had a chance to tell her, or I never made the chance. I always wondered what had happened to her. but I need to tell her parents. She was such a good friend to me that summer. Such a good friend. She would pick me up. She had this little brown Mazda 323, pick me up at the hospital in the morning, and we would go to Bienvenue Country Club and stay for the day. I might go home for a shower, and then I would be back at the hospital that night. Yeah, Caroline, Kathy. Oh, she's just a really, really nice girl. Mother. I wish I'd, don't wait to tell people things. I will say that. But I forgot again. What was I saying? Oh, Rocky Mount. And I remember I kept this journal. And in the journal, I said, they're not looking where they have cancer anymore. They're not counting. But still, I had no idea Adam was going to die. And I would only say that was God's grace. Because I think I wouldn't have enjoyed him as much. And when I read my words, I was 15, I wasn't a total dumbass. I read the words and it says, hey, we're not counting cancer. We know there's nothing we can do. But still, I had no concept of that he was going to be gone soon. Oh, thank you from Norway. It's a long way away to get some love. Oh, Ruth Ann. The cancer hasn't spread. I do too, Judy. I do too. Lost my baby brother. Yeah, I mean, you just will hear people are hurting and sad and have lost people, and they need, tell your story. Even if you just put it on Facebook and nobody reads it, you've told it. Even if you write it and put it nowhere, you've told it. And I will say, if you know and love somebody and they've been lost, I think the greatest gift you can give their family is to tell stories about them. We lost a good friend, Josh Brewer, and we usually get about a week at the beach seeing his boys, and I love to tell them stories. I tell them the same stories. I try to think up new stories. My husband, when you ran to your cousin's work, was she there? Yeah, she was there. She was there. She left with me and we drove to, we went to her house. I was Alice. I was working with your dad at the eye care center when Adam came and worked with us. I never knew he worked at the eye care center, Alice. He was working in the office I was in, and Adam kept us laughing. He brought so much life and laughter to the office while he was there, sending love and hugs. Oh, thank you for telling me that. I had no idea. Oh, I can't wait to ask Dad. Oh, that'll be great. My brother was a very, similar personalities of fun and talking and telling stories and not shy, obviously. He was probably a little bit more like Russell to me, I don't know. He wasn't as bratty as I was. And Marcia, what I've learned is that we don't talk about committed suicide. We talk about died by suicide. And I think it's because the word committed is such committed a sin, committed a crime. It makes it sound so intentional. Where I think when you get to the point that seems like taking your own life is your best choice, my heart breaks for those people. And when I was younger, I was just furious at the thought, because it was here I had this brother who tried so hard to live, and other people are just throwing their lives away. And now as an adult, I know that that's not the truth. If you get to the point where you think that's what you need to do, I think honestly, in your head, you think you're helping your family. And if you really feel like you're at the point where the world is going to be better without you, get help. Tell somebody. Tell a friend, I'm thinking about ending my life. Tell someone. And I don't know what I would do if somebody told me that, but I promise I would follow up, you know? And remember anniversary dates for your friends. If you have friends that are really struggling and there's lost my only sibling, Sterling Baker, to cancer. Tomorrow will be 3 months. Doesn't get any easier. I'm sorry, Heather. I love Sterling. Judd said their mother died of mental illness. Yeah. I was a junior in college. Every time I tell a story, I get to tell more he was. It makes me happier. I'm so glad, Kimberly. Hi from Corfu, Greece. Hot as hell here. Oh, Stacy, I'm going to be in Corfu, Greece in August. Am I going to burn up? Are you going to come pick me up? My son took his life 2.5 years ago, and I can't say that word. Do people take others seriously when they tell someone? I think, Teresa, I think so. You know, after I lost a friend recently who died by suicide, I reached out to another friend, not a good friend, and I said, is this something you're thinking about? She lost her only child a few years ago, and I tell you, when, you know, my parents had me, right? Like, they've had grandchildren, they've had this life, granted, not as good as it could have been, right? Like, I would kill to have nieces and nephews that like look like my children, and cousins, and I have my sister-in-law who I adore, but your own siblings, children, and how fun that would be, you know, for just to take family pictures or anything. But I asked her, and she said, thank you for asking, but I'm not now. And so she wasn't like offended that I asked her that. She was thankful. And so it makes me think, wow, people want you to ask them, you know? Yeah, I did see 988 is the new suicide hotline, and I was so glad to see that come out. Do you have a picture of Adam we could see? Yes, I will put some pictures of him up today. The subscribers and I do talks more like this. I have a $5 a month subscriber page. I know. It's a lot. Inflation, now it feels like it's $1,000 a month. But it is a smaller group where we have these kind of intense conversations. We also do a lot of laughing. Last night, it was myself and my 16-year-old doing a video together, which basically amounts to him pointing out all the things that are wrong with me and the world. How does Adam's story end? Yeah, you feel shame about wanting to choose suicide, so you don't tell. Well, Joan, there's some people, and you're right, maybe some people won't, but I think there's some people that say yes. And only because that advice comes from people that said, you know, I wanted somebody to ask me, you know. How did Adam's story end? You know, I don't know. Has it ended? He's been gone now, 32 years. He was 19. I'm 47. My mother wasn't 40 when he died. My dad were young when they had him. And has his story ended? I hope his story hasn't ended. I think he wanted to be an optometrist like my dad. Yeah. You know, I guess it's important for me to keep his story alive, because when I'm gone, who will remember him? You know, when my parents are gone, who will remember him? And his life on this earth was so important and so impactful that I don't want him to ever go away. Like, I want his mark on this earth bigger than just me remembering. And maybe to write a book, which a book is just a ton of time and energy. Did you know last night With Your Son was visible to everyone, not just subscribers? It was? I thought it was a subscriber video. Really? Lord knows. If it was, we're in trouble. My mom died of suicide. My fiance died in February. Suicide, mental illness, the thing people don't want to talk about. My mom's no one helped. Oh, sorry, Helen. Did it change your relationship with your parents? Yeah, it sure did. And I think my parents and I did a lot of things not right that I've told other people. We did not get counseling, and we should have. My whole family should have been in counseling. Adam had cancer. And, we didn't do it. And I'm telling you, I think it would have been a game changer. He asked his son if he felt like dying. He said we should ask more often. Yes, I'm working on a book. And part of a book is, you write a book, you're not, unless you're like Oprah or J.K. Rowling, you're not making any money on a book. So it's going to be a lot of time and attention away from what I like doing, which is watching Dateline on the couch. But that book puts Adam into it. And my mother wrote a book called Beyond the Eclipse, which is really a great book, I think, for any mother who's lost a child, particularly. Kind of this process of grief, sort of short stories. I watched it, and I'm not a subscriber. Oh, that's good. I watched it and thought you said it was. I did think it was subscribers only. Oh, golly. It's a little bit of a SHIT show around here, just in case you're wondering. It's only quiet right now because Thomas is asleep. I have 2 children at camp, and I heard Amos, but I left the TV on last night so he could watch it this morning. Your son was talking about gaslighting. Oh, God. My 16-year-old loves to say that I'm gaslighting him just because he can't help it. Cassie, my daughter passed away of cancer at 3 in 2005. Oh, Cassie, 17 years ago, she would be 20. No, Adam did not die of suicide. He died of cancer. Oh, thank you, Nancy, for saying that. I think that, Nancy, my part about suicide, not that I honestly don't know anything about suicide other than loving people that have died by it, is that it's hard to wrap your mind around somebody that's like an amazing mother, parent, and all the things they do for their children, and then to take their own lives, die by suicide, because it's like it doesn't go along with the person you knew. Like the person I knew made sure people had the right dresses and the right shoes and hair ribbons and brushed teeth and braces and rides to tennis practice. And I just know that the person I knew wouldn't do that, That's the tricky part for that. Bye, Christina. Is that a mosquito on your hat? Yes. That is my favorite hat. Well, I just got a new one because the other one looks so bad. Skeeter. This is from a restaurant down at the beach, Atlantic Beach, called Amos Mosquito. My son Thomas works there. He's worked there 2 summers. You can order their stuff online. And funny enough, yesterday Thomas said, Sandy Howard is an owner there, and he said, does Sandy still pay you $100 every time you wear his stuff in a video? I was like, what are you talking about? He goes, he pays you $100 when you wear his stuff in a video. I was like, no, he doesn't. He goes, you're the one that told me that. I was like, well, that clearly was a lie. I mean, how could you believe that? That means I would wear it in every video. He's like, this is why I don't believe anything you say. You're a liar. Or as my daughter said, she was about 5, and she said something about, when are we doing that? I was like, we're not doing that. She goes, This house is full of stinking liars. Thank you for sharing Adam with us and celebrating him. Oh, you know, I know that I like to imagine what life would be like if Adam were here. And in my own mind, it can be perfect, right? Because he's not here. So we don't fuss or fight or, you know, argue or get annoyed at each other trying to share a beach place. And but I miss him, you know, and it's not that I miss his daily presence. I think what I've missed is where he's been in times of life that are really important to me, like high school graduation, college graduation, graduate school. Getting married was super hard. Having a baby, having a 16-year-old, you know, and having an Uncle Adam to call you and reach out and talk to you. Amos Mosquito, do you find yourself talking to him? No. I probably should. My little brother died at 4. A neighbor gave him antifreeze. We were not allowed to talk about it. Oh, I'm sorry, Kara. You know, people are hurting. So when you're at the grocery store and somebody takes your parking space, or maybe somebody stands too long, and I'm saying this to myself as much as anybody, just give people grace. You don't know what the struggle is somebody's having that second. And I'm real quick to get annoyed at somebody. But let's just all be aware that there are people walking around with the type of baggage that would destroy us. And give them an extra smile. You know, I always said my mother's best friends like work at Kmart. Kmart's closed now. But, you know, just be kind and smile and friendly and just acknowledge that people are hurting and we don't want them hurting, you know? You initiate tough conversations by sharing your own personal experiences. Yes, my husband has a sister who we don't see a ton, and then she has 2 daughters. So it's not like we get to see her all the time, but they live in opposite parts of the state and have just a totally different life than we do. We have 4 small children. They're 2 are older and 1 stepdaughter. But yeah, but we get to see my parents a bunch. We won't see them today. So I'll call them in a few minutes and see what they're doing. But we'll go to dinner Thursday night, and that'll be nice. Go to seafood buffet. My husband will come and my boys, and, you know, just making an effort to acknowledge it. That's kind of it's easier to talk about somebody's birthday than the anniversary of their death, I think, because it's like you don't want to celebrate the anniversary of their death. But I would have to say, you know, Adam was healed that day. Not healed in the way we would have wanted him to be, but yeah, healed. Do any of your boys remind you of Adam? You know, my daughter has the exact same smile as my brother. I mean, that's Snorkus right there. And yeah, they all do in ways. My son Russell has his hands, these like slender, long, tapered fingers. And my son Thomas is like super good looking like him. And yeah, they do. They all remind me of him. And oh, just so thankful for them. Look how many animals I have. My nice new couch cushions. Anyway, subscribers, I'm going to jump over and talk to y'all since I can for a minute. And then I'm going to try to figure out how to do a media kit, which I don't know how to do. So subscribers, see you in a minute. If you want to subscribe and you need just a group, camaraderie, We had a weekend in Edenton this year. I had 150 people come for the weekend, and we had a great time. I don't know if we're doing it every year. We might. But it was really fun. So if you need a group to talk about hard stuff or just a community, and you know what? People need community. And if you don't have a community in real life, you can have one here. Or maybe you just need a place where you can be like, you know what? I just want to connect in a deeper way. I don't need to be over at fake Instagram looking at Dodo Bird and how her, 5 kids have matching outfits and her house looks so freaking clean. So annoying. My mom's book is Beyond the Eclipse. Where are Blair and Alice? Tell them Alice Robin said hi. I will tell them, Alice. My mom and dad are in Rocky Mount this morning. You're welcome, Anita, and love to you as your brother, as his life on this earth ends. And I'm just so sorry. I've never lost a child, but I'll tell you, your brother is your closest genetic tie or your sibling, and there's something really, really amazing about that. But I'm just so thankful to have had him. So thankful. Lots of fun, and I made so many new friends. Oh, Stephanie was at my weekend. It really was fun. Even my husband had a great time. All right. Thank y'all. Subscribers, let me microwave my coffee for the 10th time. Oh, I'm sorry, Linda. My hat is from Amos Mosquito. You can go online and order one. And no, I did not name Amos after Amos Mosquito. And Amos Mosquito was not named after Amos. Amos was named for, this is my son with autism, was named for a great-great-grandfather whose name was Amos Harold. I want to subscribe and can't. Well, I'll put up the link, and then you probably have to do it from your computer. You should be able to. It's super hard to do from a phone or an iPad. The phone and the iPad also, Apple takes 30% of the money, which is so freaking annoying because they do nothing. Oh, thank you, Joanne. I don't own a microwave. What? What is this you say? I'm going to start calling you Ma Ingalls, Mary. Oh. And then we have a spammer. Where he's been gone this whole long. Let's ban him. He's been banned. Goodbye, spammer. Oh, my cousin Kristen. Remembering Adam's quick smile and sending you love. Yeah. Oh, Kristen, you loved him like I did. Kristen was the oldest of the 5 children. I was the youngest. It's amazing that Kristen loves me after all the torture I offered for years. She also drove me to school like every day of my life. Yeah, Kristen, just having a little memory lane discussion this morning. How do you subscribe? I'm going to put the link up. I'm putting the link up. Subscribers, see you in a minute.